Welcome to Alabama Justice Lawyering Up. My name is Richard Jaffe, the senior partner in the Birmingham, Alabama law firm of Jaffe, Hanle, Whisonant, and Knight. We are going to explore with you the hottest cases, the most controversial topics of Alabama justice, and we're going to bring to you exciting key players that make our Alabama justice work or not work. We look forward to having you. Welcome to another exciting segment of Alabama Justice. I'm Richard Jaffe, along with me, my partner, Mike Hanle, and we have another exciting guest today, Randy Dempsey. We could do 2 shows with Randy, and it's exciting to have you here. Thank you for being here.
Richard, it's my pleasure. I enjoy being always in your company, and Michael's. Y'all are fine lawyers, representatives of the legal community, and it's always a pleasure to be with you.
Well, thank you. And let's start off with a little bit about your background. What led you to become a lawyer? And I also understand that you're a former FBI agent.
That was many years ago when I was a lot harder and younger and faster and stronger. But that is true. I was in high school trying to decide what I wanted to do with my life, and I had some meetings with the counselors, as we all did in high school, to try to direct us in the right direction. And I had my eyes set on nuclear engineering, particularly or focused on Huntsville with the rockets and all that up there. I was fascinated with that, and I did fairly well in math and science, so that was what I was looking forward to, and the trajectory that I had sort of self-evaluated that I would be good for. But my counselor said, oh, no, we have too many engineers. We don't have enough lawyers. You ought to try to go to law school. So that was what directed my path to the legal community, Richard.
Really?
I started gearing up, designed the college courses for the path to get into law school, got a bachelor's degree and a master's degree, and then I went into law school. Enjoyed it tremendously. The years I've been practicing since 1984 now, so that's about 33 years, and it's been a pleasure.
When you were in the FBI, where were you located?
Well, of course, the training is in Quantico, Virginia, for almost 6 months there. Then I went to Manassas, Virginia for a brief time, and then to Buffalo, New York. Beautiful downtown Buffalo, the fastest shrinking city in the country at the time. I don't know what it's like now, but we then left the Bureau, and I got a position here in the Birmingham area with Spencer Backus and Al Krausen, Jim Harris, and Kelby Strickland. They hired me as an associate, and I went to work at that point.
What kind of law did you practice then?
I practiced pretty much anything that walked in the door, Richard. The first case I had was a Chapter 13 bankruptcy filing. I was very familiar with the UCC and the bankruptcy laws because in undergraduate school I had worked at a bank in the Oxford-Anniston area, which is where I'm from. And when we would make loans, we had to perfect the security instrument, perfect its filing and all. And then when debtors would file bankruptcy, I would attend the bankruptcy hearings in the Anniston bankruptcy court there on the side of the creditor. So I was very familiar with bankruptcy laws, and I was happy that was my first case that ever came in. I did divorces, I did criminal defense work, I did real estate transactions. I did pretty much anything that came in the door except SEC work. I didn't do any securities exchange work at all, but I did a lot of things in order to get the bills paid and the rent paid, and as time went by then I sort of refined the practice a little bit. Well, now currently I do a lot of civil litigation, both plaintiff and defense. I do all of our criminal defense work. Nobody else in the office wants to do it. And of course, with the background as in the Bureau, I have a familiarity with federal courts from that side, from the prosecution side a little bit. And I've grown to understand and learn it from the defense side over the last 30 plus years.
Randy, one of the things I wanted to ask you was how your FBI training and your work as an FBI agent has influenced you with respect to your law practice.
I have an appreciation for what the agents have to go through as they investigate and make a case. And I also understand how they go through it, the steps they go through. Obviously, it's changed a lot over the last 3 decades, but I can envision what they went through, how they investigated the case. A lot of times, federal agents will target an individual that they believe is committing some wrong, and then they will assign a squad, and they will follow him, observe what he does, do a background investigation on him, and eventually come up with something that he has done wrong and then charge him with it. Many times, obviously, you have to react to a kidnapping or bank robbery if you're an agent after it happens, so you don't get to target the individual. You're simply responding to the call as the crime arises and is committed. So I have an appreciation for what they have to do when they are reacting to a criminal act that has been committed.
One more question
Sure.
before, I know Mike's got a number of questions for you. When we started practicing, you and me and Mike, I think there were probably about 1,500, maybe 2,000 at the most, different ways you can be charged with a federal offense.
Yeah.
About how many are there now?
Unfortunately, Richard, there are so many laws on the books now, on the federal code, that people don't even realize they're breaking the law many times when they commit an offense. And the U.S. attorneys have to look up the law to determine if there's been a violation or not, because they don't know either. That is a problem. The federal code has just grown by volumes, and it's difficult for anybody to keep up with all the laws that are passed, both locally here in the state legislature as well as federally in the Congress. It's just difficult to keep up with everything that's passed, as you know.
Following up on that question, when you started practicing some 30 years ago, things were different as far as the crimes that were being charged. How have the investigative, aspects of the cases changed, in your opinion, over those 30 years that you're working on?
Well, technology has changed an awful lot. When I first started practicing law, we didn't have cell phones. We had pagers.
Oh,
Y'all
yes.
remember
I had mine.
And we didn't have necessarily what we call wiretaps, where you had cell phones that are now, I had a roving wiretap case about 12 months ago, the first time I had run across that one, where many times those people that violate the law believe that their phones are being traced, so they will just keep a phone for about 2 weeks, discard it, get a new one.
Yeah.
It's difficult to track those if you're on the federal investigative side. So they have, technology and the laws have evolved, chasing the technology.
It makes it a little bit easier for us on the defense side because of those technological advances.
That is correct. And it makes it easier on their side for surveillance techniques and recording phone calls and that kind of thing as well.
Okay. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to ask you about your nickname.
Surely.
I'm Richard Jaffe, senior partner in the law firm of Jaffe, Hanle, Whisonant, and Knight. And with me is Mike Hanle, who has handled many, many, many federal cases, among other cases. Mike, what would you do if you received a call, like you do often, from someone who believes they're a subject or a target of a federal criminal investigation?
Well, the most important thing to do is to immediately reach out to the U.S. Attorney's Office to find out who is the principal U.S. attorney that's handling that case, and you can begin to have a dialogue with that person.
And why is it important to do that?
Well, it allows us to participate in the shaping of the case, how that case will ultimately maybe be charged or not charged at all.
And what are federal sentencing guidelines?
Well, the federal sentencing guidelines are a complex series of calculations that begin with an offense level for each criminal charge, and it includes the calculation of your criminal history, which is your prior criminal conduct.
We at Jaffe, Hanle, Whisonant, and Knight are ready, willing, and able to talk with you or anyone in your family at any time if you find yourself in a position where you need someone experienced in the federal courts.
We are back with our very special guest, Randy Dempsey, here on Alabama Justice. Randy, when we went to break, I was getting ready to ask you about your nickname. For years, I've referred to you as the governor, and I've never really heard the story behind that. Can you tell us about that story?
Sure, Mike. It happened many years ago. I was, when I first started practicing law in 1984, as I said, Spencer Backus and I formed a partnership, and it later culminated in adding Al Krausen, who went on to become a presiding judge in Shelby County, and then Jim Harris, the late Jim Harris. He died about a year ago, and Kelby Strickland. Spencer, of course, was in state politics and ultimately was elected into the Congress in 1992. We continued to have some business relationships while he was in the Congress. He couldn't practice law, but I had an opportunity to talk with him on many occasions while he was in his office in the District of Columbia. And when I would call up there, I had developed sort of I don't know how good it was, but I could impersonate some of the governors of the state of Alabama. And the occasion that you're referencing, when I earned the nickname governor, I was impersonating Fob James, who was the governor, the late Fob James, who was governor at the time. I called up and asked for Spencer and used my Fob voice to try to, interns would answer the phone, and they'd Terry on the phone. When one of the young interns would answer the phone, I used my Fob voice and said, "May I speak to the congressman?" And when they asked who was calling, I would say Fob James. And they would scurry around and get Spencer's executive secretary on the phone and say that the governor's on the phone, and she would answer. And she typically knew who I was. But on one particular occasion, she did not discern that it was me. Rather, she thought it was actually the governor, Fob James, on the phone. And so she forwarded the call in to Spencer directly. And when he answered, there was a conversation that sort of put Spencer behind the eight ball, and he started trying to explain away a situation. And much to my dismay, I couldn't maintain the impersonation for very long before I started laughing, and he realized it was not the governor. That story circled around within the office there, internally in the congressional office, and from that point on, in the congressional office, I was referred to as the governor. It sort of spilled over into some of the local courthouses, and now that's probably where you heard it, Mike, that they call me the governor too, and a lot of the judges' staffs there, because they've heard me being referenced to as the governor, and they've all picked up on it. And many of them now know the full story. Judge Benson and her staff do, and of course, those that are no longer there, some of the judges, Judge Hard, Judge McCormick, and some of the others knew the story as well. But that's the background of the story of the governor. They believe when I show up that I can speak like the governor. So I fooled a congressman, and that's the background of that story, Mike.
Well, I think I heard that in Judge Hard's courtroom.
You may have.
Former Circuit Court Judge Jim Hard. Do you still have some connections to Alabama politics? Are you still in touch with Backus?
Yes. As you know, Spencer was recently appointed by the current president to the board of directors on the Export-Import Bank, the XM Bank in D.C. His name has been presented for confirmation by the Senate. I think it was on Monday of this week, and as soon as the confirmation is done, he's supposed to take office, hopefully within the next 2 weeks or so. And I was very proud for him. That's a great position for him to have, and it was an honor for him to be asked by the current president. Yes, we still maintain a close relationship. He was an only child, and he always viewed me as a younger brother, so I take that as an honor as well. So we are together quite a bit. And I represent the State Alcoholic Beverage Control Board. The Attorney Generals from Jeff Sessions forward, when Jeff was the Attorney General here, and now he's the Attorney General of the United States, appointed me as a Deputy Attorney General to represent the ABC Board, and I've done that basically from, I guess, the Hunt administration on forward up through today, and that's been very, I've enjoyed that very much as well. Representing the ABC Board has been delightful.
Have you followed any of the ongoings down in the Alabama legislature? Do you keep up with that?
Yes, I have several friends that are in both the House and the Senate, and we discuss a lot of matters that come up from time to time, as things do in the State House, dealing with many different things. But obviously, I get phone calls regarding alcohol-related issues for the most part. There was a 5% markup that just passed at the last board meeting that got a lot of feedback, both pro and con. That was an issue that was discussed widely within the legislature and with the ABC Board as well.
I think the district attorney up in Blount County made a point of letting all the folks know that increase in the liquor would provide her with a little additional revenue.
Yeah, I think the legislature earmarked in the budget approximately $6 million that's anticipated to be generated from that 5% increase to the district attorneys throughout the state, as well as a little over 2% is going to the court system to help their
much needed money there.
It really is. They're both in desperate straits, as I understand it. Right.
One of the things that I have always admired about you is that you are equally comfortable as a trial lawyer in both the state and the federal courts.